Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is all about things to consider when buying a caravan.
Yeah, so the idea of this video is not to put you off of buying one. We couldn't recommend caravanning more. Just sometimes you have to be realistic. I can't tell you how many times I've seen posts on Facebook where people have bought caravans and then they've started asking questions and then they've had to either really change their plans or sell the caravan altogether. But I'm sure if you do enough preparation and research, then you'll be enjoying your trips away in your caravan soon. This video isn't just about helping you decide whether you're going to buy a caravan or not, but it also might help you decide what size or type. So the first thing involved with caravanning is cost. We're not going to go into that in this video. We have two videos coming up soon. One that is going to give you a list of all the things that you need to buy, sort of done in things that you absolutely need, and then sort of luxury items. And another video we're going to be doing is on the cost of caravanning. So you will need to consider where you're going to keep your caravan. Do you want it at home? Can you fit it on your drive? If your choice is to put it in storage, then obviously that comes with a cost, but also you will need to check that there's availability. When we bought our caravan, we did struggle to find places in our area that had availability.
You'll also need to consider the berth of the caravan and what size that's going to give you. So if you've got a large family, you might need a bigger berth. If you're happy with a smaller one, then obviously a smaller berth will be fine for you. You'll also need to decide if you want a caravan that's a single axle or if you want one that's a twin axle.
Yeah, so obviously that decision might be taken out of your hand depending on if you're going for a really small one or a really big one, but there's some in the middle that can be single or double. I don't really have an opinion either way, but we were told before we bought a caravan that a lot of sites don't accept twin axle caravans. I think we've probably only been to one where they've said no twin axle. I have also heard that towing a caravan with a twin axle is supposed to feel
a bit sturdier.
Yeah, a bit sturdier on the road, a bit better to tow, but I can't say that there's been any problems with our single axle.
You'll also need to decide if your caravan's going to be a standard width or if you want an 8-foot wide caravan.
Yeah, I was reading a comment from someone the other day that said that they really don't notice the difference with towing an 8-foot caravan, but you really notice the difference inside. We've actually been into this model, haven't we, that's 8 foot. Personally, I didn't like it. It gives you more space, but there's not a lot more space in terms of the things that you use, the functional things, but it's just more space in the middle. And for me, I like the fact that the caravan is a caravan and it's quite compact. Also consider what storage you want in the caravan. Now, you will have to be careful because more storage doesn't necessarily mean that you can fill those spaces. You need to be careful with the weight that you can carry in the caravan. The other important storage is the locker storage out the front. Now, some caravans have done away with the outside locker space, and for me, we love that space. Obviously, it's got the gas bottle in it, but we put all of the outside stuff, all of the hoses and toilet fluid, the cable and all that sort of thing. So, just be mindful if you buy a caravan that doesn't have front lockers at all, or maybe just the very, very small ones. So just on to payload then. Remember that there is a maximum weight that your caravan can be, and when you start adding things like your motor mover, if you have one, your solar panel, even your leisure battery, your payload decreases. So, if you're someone that wants to go away with a lot of gear, then you'll need to look for probably a twin axle and something that has a high payload.
You'll also need to consider if you want to buy a new caravan or if you want to buy a used caravan.
What do people call them? New to me. Pre-loved. Yeah, there's some really good deals out there on second-hand caravans, and you can pick up, sort of, as long as someone else has looked after it before, then you're going to save a fortune by going for a second-hand one.
Obviously, if you are going to buy a old pre-loved caravan, then you will just need to remember that sometimes warranties don't always transfer, or there might be a shorter time for warranty on there.
So the next thing to consider is what brand you're going to go with. Now, to people who are perhaps new to caravanning, that might not mean anything to you. To people who have maybe been caravanning before and have maybe took a break, you might really understand that some brands are renowned for their quality, their lack of quality, their problems. Certain brands, I'm not going to name them, but there's certain brands that always seem to have problems with water ingress and things like that. And then, for example, just one that I thought of, you've got the Baileys that have all got the long window that goes from sort of this height all the way up to the top. So there's certain things with certain brands that you will come to expect.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the layout. Now, there's quite a lot in this criteria that you'll want to look out for. So first one is, how will you cook? Will you cook inside? Will you cook outside? If you're going to cook outside, will you want an external gas point so that you can have your gas barbecue out there? As you know, Sarah always talks about the hob and how she'd like an induction hob. So are you wanting something that's just gas or something that you can do both with? And will you have a microwave?
There's also the option to consider if you'd like a separate dining area. So as well as obviously having the table that you can pull out normally in the lounge areas, are you going to pick a bit of a bigger caravan or a different layout to have a separate dining space, I guess?
Well, you can eat and then you can say, should we retreat to the living quarters?
And on some caravans we've noticed that it will be in the middle opposite to the kitchen, and then there's been a couple where it's been at the back. So just depending on where, if you are going to go for that option, where in the caravan you'd like that to be.
Yeah. So on to sleeping arrangements. Will you choose a fixed bed or a make-up bed? Will you choose a transverse bed which goes that way through the caravan, or a French bed? Will you go for a double bed or two singles? Maybe you'll need bunk beds if you're travelling with children. So when it comes to a fixed bed or a make-up bed, I think if you're quite religious in the time that you go to bed as a couple, same time every night, then that might work, having a make-up bed for you. We typically don't, so I don't really want to lay here and watch TV because Sarah wants to go to bed early, and at the same time you get up before I do in the morning, and Sarah probably wouldn't want to have to wait before she can come and sit in the lounge. The other things to bear in mind is that sometimes you think you're going out for the whole afternoon and evening, so you make your bed up to come home, you go to the pub, it's rubbish, or you get kicked out,
Change your plans.
and then your bed's set up and you can't sit in your lounge. The other side of that is we've all gone out for one drink and had a really good time, and then you're going to have to come home maybe a bit worse for wear with no bed made up.
Yeah. Moving on to washrooms, so you'll need to decide if you'd like to have your washroom at the end of your caravan or in the middle. There are some that are kind of on the side towards the back or across the back. I think it kind of depends on if you want to have that separate shower and toilet facility, I guess, or if you want to have the option of maybe a bit of a smaller bathroom with a bath over sometimes the toilet area and the sink.
Yeah, because some of them actually feel like a room, and others feel like they're almost like the walk-through.
Moving on to the lounge area, you'll need to decide what layout you'd like in there. So whether it's going to be the two bench seats like we have, if it's going to be an L shape lounge sofa area, or if it's going to be a U shape where it's all the way around.
Mm-hmm. So we call it U-shape because that's what we said at the show, but I think people call it a wraparound lounge, actually.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So on to sort of like the overall layout of the caravan. Some of them are very open, so I'd say ours is an open layout, and some of them have sort of like hard doors that you kind of have a handle on, and they're quite sort of divided in terms of lounge, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, or washroom. So yeah, you'll need to decide what style you want to go for.
Remember, when you do go to dealers to look around caravans, they don't always have all of the items that you'll necessarily have in your caravan. So things like television, for example, we are definitely recommend to take a little bit of time in sitting and practicing living almost in the caravans before you make a purchase. We found a caravan just before we bought this one. It was perfect. We were kind of set on it really, weren't we? And, we're just 5-10 minutes in and we're like, actually, we don't like where we'd have to put the television in here because there was nowhere to sort of lay and relax and have your back against something on a sofa.
Yeah.
And it just felt for us that it will take up more room that we didn't necessarily want it to take up.
Yeah, so this might be hard for you to imagine there, but this bench seat here, the TV would have had to have gone here. There was nowhere else for it, but this bench seat here didn't have anything to lean back on. So on this one, you can see where Sara is there. You could lean against that. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want to all the time because that's hard, whereas this is soft. But there, if I'd have leant back, I'd have been on the floor. I think just sort of on the point that Sarah just made, some of the most expensive purchases we make are the ones that we do the least research. You think you buy a house, you might only go and visit it once or twice, and that's probably the most expensive thing you're going to buy. Yeah. Sometimes, you go in to buy a bar of chocolate in the supermarket and you're looking for 20 minutes to decide which one. It's ridiculous when you're parting with that amount of money. So another top tip would be, if you're unsure, not to buy a brand new spanking caravan from the beginning. Maybe rent one. If you have close friends or family that have one, maybe borrow one and take it away for a weekend and see if it's really for you, because of the reasons that we just said. You really do need to live in it before you decide what layout is going to be best to suit your needs. So there does have to be some compromises. Sometimes you'll lose space in the bedroom to give you a bigger lounge. You might have a huge kitchen but a tiny bathroom. And realistically, the only thing that's going to give you a huge lounge, huge kitchen, huge bathroom, huge bedroom is going to be a static caravan, not a touring caravan. So you will have to make a decision on what type of heating you want. So you might decide to have blown air, which is what we have. Arguably, that is quicker at warming up your caravan. Or you might decide to go for wet heating, which is a bit like your central heating at home, which is supposed to give you a bit more of an even distribution of heat. You may even consider to have underfloor heating. She'd like that.
Right. You'll also need to consider if you'd like to have air conditioning fitted to your caravan. We do have air conditioning, and I must say that it is amazing.
Yeah, on them 3 days a year that it gets hot enough, it is really, really good.
You'll also need to consider if you'd like to have a solar panel fitted to the caravan. It obviously just gives you that extra little bit of
juice.
Yeah, power to your battery. And I think in terms of if you are going to go off grid, you've got that little tiny bit of a backup.
So we are going to be doing a little video on that as well soon. But I think one of the key things for me is that it keeps your battery in good health because it trickle charges. So particularly if you're not using your caravan through the winter months, then that solar panel is just keeping your battery topped up.
The size and location of the fridge is something else to think about. Lots of caravans have got the under-counter fridge, which obviously means that they're a little bit, maybe a bit wider, but a lot shorter. Some of them will obviously have the freezer space in them, some of them won't have that, so deciding on those. But otherwise, there's obviously the tall fridges as well, with the freezer compartments sometimes separate in them, so that's something else to think about.
Yeah, and like we just said, I don't think it's something you really consider when you're walking around the dealership is how big the fridge is, but actually when you come to live in something, you can obviously buy a cool box that can go outside, it's not a fridge, but it is quite important if you're coming away, especially with family, if you like cooking and you're bringing lots of food with you. Obviously if you live on takeaways and that sort of stuff, then it isn't going to be of much interest. So the next big thing you'll need to think about once you purchase your caravan is, are you going to have an awning? Are you going to have a sun canopy? Are you going to have a standalone, pop-up tent, something like that, a gazebo? And you probably then want to consider, do you have a strong relationship? Because they're not called a divorce in a bag for any other reason than that's what they cause.
You'll need to ensure that you keep on top of the cleaning both inside the caravan and outside the caravan. Really important.
Yeah.
For the health and maintenance of the caravan.
You'll also need to consider keeping it secure, and that is security and insurance. Obviously, as you know, these things do tend to go missing from time to time, so making sure that you have good insurance cover, no security is absolutely going to stop someone. If someone wants it, they will take it. Everybody knows that. But it is just about, particularly if you're in storage, it's just about making yours less appealing to the person next to you because you've maybe invested a little bit of money to keep it safe.
You may need to consider changing your tow car so it's suitable for the caravan that you purchase, or you may need to actually have a tow bar fitted if you don't have one already.
So you may want to check your driving licence. Now, this one is a little bit sort of wishy-washy because obviously you had, and I can't remember what the date was, if you passed your driving licence before a certain year, then you were able to tow. Anything after that, you weren't. Now, during COVID, they relaxed the rules, and I believe that was because everybody was out buying caravans. So they relaxed the rules, and they actually put the B+E on everybody's driving licence. Now, I had mine and didn't think that I could tow, and Sarah said, but I've got it on mine. And when I checked online, you could see that it was there, but because my licence was issued pre-COVID, it wasn't actually showing on my licence. Now, I am going to do a video at some point this year on that sort of thing, but I don't like giving too much information if we've not researched it thoroughly, because I don't want to sort of misadvise. But check your licence, make sure you can tow. But I believe since COVID, it's gone back onto everybody's licence. But there is obviously a limit that you can drive, and again, that's to do with the combined weight of the car and the trailer or caravan. But I'm not going to give you specifics because I don't want to get anyone into trouble.
You'll also need to remember that you are going to have to tow the caravan, so make sure it's a size that you're comfortable with. You could, of course, consider doing a towing course to help you with that.
Yeah, I would thoroughly recommend doing a towing course, because I think I don't want to put anybody off a towing, but it isn't just straightforward. You know, you need to be prepared, but they are going to give you some advice that's going to help keep you safe and make it easier for you. And moving on to making it easier for you, you need to consider whether you want a motor mover or not. You know, they just make everything easy, and particularly with the wheel locks that we've got, where we have to get it in like the most precise place to make sure that the spoke is in line with the receiver on the chassis. Yeah, they're just, and they're cool as well. I remember when I first got it, and you're just like, I'm just driving my caravan around. And I tell you what, I want people to put in the comments. Has anyone ever, I'm not suggesting that you do this, by the way, has anyone ever stood in their caravan and moved their caravan around whilst using, from the remote with the motor mover? It's like being in a spaceship.
It's not just about the budget of money, but also time. Are you going to have time to really enjoy your caravan? It's a lot of money to spend to be using it only a couple of times.
Especially if you've got kids clubs and stuff like that. You know, if they're playing football every Sunday, and then you're like, when are we actually going to get away and use it? So another thing that you'll need to consider is you're going to need an awful lot of accessories. Now, we're not going to go through any of these, because next Sunday we'll be bringing you a video where we'll be going through all the things that you will need to buy.
You'll need to think, if you've got pets, if they're going to be coming, you need to make sure that you've got things that are suitable for them living in your caravan.
Yeah, and on Wednesday, the 26th of March, we will have a video coming out sort of going through what makes it easy for us and comfortable for them. And that's not just travelling, but also living in the caravan itself. So one thing that you do need to be aware of is they're not necessarily the easiest things to set up and pack away. So you're going to have to do things like the water, the fresh water, the wastewater, the toilets. You're going to have to put the steadies up and down. You're going to hitch it to your car, unhitch it, you know, move it around and that sort of stuff. And that's without doing all the other sort of things inside, you know, like sort of like we spoke about earlier, cleaning and all that sort of thing. So there is quite a lot of work involved in going away for any trip, whether it's for a weekend or longer.
Things don't always look like how they do in the dealership, so remember that dealerships, especially if they're inside, will use lots of really bright lighting that, I don't know, it just adds nice look to the caravan, but that's not necessarily how it's going to be when you buy it. There's also obviously soft furnishings in there, so they might have additional pillows in there that you don't necessarily get. And 9 times out of 10, they're pristinely clean. Okay, maybe the floor's got some footprints and stuff, or they've got a cover on. But yeah, just remember that you are going to live in it. It is going to get a little bit dirty.
Yeah, you got to sort of strip it back to basics. I mean, let's be honest, who's not been to a caravan dealership, walked in and seen a bottle of Prosecco with 2 glasses or some flowers in the corner and that sort of stuff? And, you know, that's just not how people live in their caravans all the time. So just be mindful that how you see it in the dealership is maybe not how it's going to look all the time.
Yeah. So remember that it will be a bigger cost than the one that you see in the caravan window in the dealership.
And to find out just how much, join us in some of our future videos.
So a final top tip would be to rule out certain vans. If there's a layout that you don't particularly like, or a size that you don't like, or you're unable to tow, don't even bother looking at them. It just adds, there's so many caravans out there, it just adds to the, well, mind blownness, I guess,
Yeah.
of deciding on which one. So yeah, takes them off the list, as heartbreaking as that might be sometimes. And also, obviously, if you've got a budget, and stick to that budget, don't start looking at caravans that are over that budget, especially ones that are over by, you know, thousands of pounds. Maybe a couple of £100 you might be able to find, but yeah, don't go over your budget, otherwise it could end up in heartbreak.
Yeah, and also the other point with that is that if you're not going to be able to afford it, then it's going to make other caravans look really, really basic when they're not.
Yeah.
It's just that some have some really, really fancy fixtures, fittings, even like the carpet on some of them, you know. So then you sort of walk into another one, you're like, I don't like this. You would have liked it had you have not have gone into a caravan that's twice your budget first.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end. Hopefully you found some of these tips useful. Like I said, if you already have your caravan, then feel free to drop us a comment and let us know what we've missed, or if you agree or disagree with anything that we've said. Join us on Tuesday for our anniversary video, where we, not us, but the channel, turns 1 year old on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we have a Vanna the Collective video coming out, which I have to say, I love this one. I'm not going to give the subject away just yet, but I really, really love this video. And next week, we're going to be showing you, next Sunday, we're going to be showing you all the things that you're going to need to buy when you buy a caravan. So make sure, I did say a couple of weeks ago, this is going to be a bumper month, March. So we've got, you know, loads of videos coming out, and hopefully you're going to find them interesting. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you
In the next one.
See you
Bye,
later.
guys.